And so to our last chat of the year with the Chief Minister. Let's start with the bus strike, shall we? Because this involves your whole way that the government is going to be clawing money away from people, cutting jobs, cutting benefits, cutting salaries, you name it. Getting a bit of a hard time over this, aren't you?
Well, the fundamental ambition of these changes isn't to cut anything, it's to rebalance the budget. And we have no choice on this. We have lost a third of our income, and we have a rebalancing plan which is already underway and has been, in fact, for the last 3 years, which people often forget. And therefore, a number of these changes inevitably have to be brought in as part of that rebalancing exercise.
But this has been an easy target for you, hasn't it? I mean, to go for the busman.
Not at all. No one has been singled out. Every department has its own challenges. It's perhaps unfortunate that the DCCL was first in line in terms of having to make these changes, but it could just as easily have been another department. So no one has been singled out on this. We have to explore every opportunity in every department to find areas where we can make savings. So you must understand what we're trying to do in this is to make the savings as painless as possible. We still want to protect the frontline services, the key services that the general public expect us to maintain, but also we are doing our best to ensure job security as well for as many of our staff. You must understand.
This job security thing, I mean, the people holding their breath here going, where is it going to go next? I won't book my holiday, I won't spend that money on that new car because I don't know where it's going to end. And this is an ongoing thing. I mean, we're at the end of the year and it's not done by a long way, is it?
No, and we can't guarantee these jobs. Every job is going to be under scrutiny. There's no question about that. What we're trying to do is to avoid the loss of as many jobs as necessary by making efficiency savings elsewhere. Now, this is going to mean cooperation with the unions, with the workforce, with government generally to try and achieve this. But you can't lose a third of your income without breaking a few eggs in the process in terms of rebalancing.
I think the union have asked you to get involved to negotiate through this. What's your thought on that?
Yes, I've heard that. The message, though, is very, very clear. I fully support the actions of the department. I've made a number of public statements already on this. The department has to make at least £300,000 in savings. Those savings, if you remember, or the proposals for savings were actually recommended to the workforce by the current union leadership in the first place. They recognise where we've had to do and what we've had to do, and the union leaders have actually endorsed our position to recommend to the workforce in the first place. Now, yes, the workforce rejected that, but I think the union leadership at least have recognised the problem facing the department. Now, my involvement at this stage is not going to make any difference one way or the other than perhaps to repeat the message. We have to make these £300,000 of savings, and very, very clearly there is no extra money on the table, and then nor will there be.
Are you going to crush the union?
We're not interested in crushing unions. We're here purely and simply to rebalance budgets. We want to work with the workforce. We have a very good workforce across the whole of government, and we want to maintain that good relationship. But there has to be a recognition that change is coming.
And this time next year, will it finally all be in place? Will you be balancing your budgets, or will you still be dipping into the reserves?
No, we have at least 2 more very hard years to come. We have our budget in February. That will be laying out the way ahead now for the next couple of years. The first year in many ways has been the easy year because the easier targets, the easier savings that we've been able to make have been more clearly identified. The challenge for government and for the wider public, and indeed for the unions, is to work with us over the next 2 years to try and find ways of streamlining government to make those savings while still protecting the public services. So it's going to get difficult, not easier.
I mean, you are the biggest employer in the Isle of Man as such. Yes. Will you be at the end of this process? Will you still be the biggest?
I very much hope that we will be able to slim down government dramatically over the next few years. Certainly start the process for downsizing government. We have even now well over 8,000 people, one way or another, working for government. That's 20% of the workforce. It's too big in a small community to be sustainable in the long term. We have to find a way of downsizing that responsibility.
So back to my point, you're not giving any cheer to people at Christmas, are you? Because people are going to be very worried.
I fully appreciate that it is a time of uncertainty, but we have no choice. And this isn't something we do because we want to do it. It's because we are faced with the loss of so much income. But there is good news. I mean, don't paint this all as doom and gloom. We are exactly where we hope to be in terms of the rebalancing. We are making real progress on that. And alongside of that, the economy is still growing. We're one of the very few economies in Europe at the moment that's still showing the level of real growth that we're enjoying.
And we talked recently about eGaming, the success that's been. And then I think almost following that in a few days later, in the papers, there was these reports that maybe the Chancellor in the UK wants to grab some of this money back and put it onshore. I mean, you must have had your blood pressure go up on that one.
No, I've been warning about this for a long, long time, that the easy or relatively easy economic period that we've lived through has thrown up a number of opportunities for the Isle of Man. A number of niche opportunities. E-gaming certainly is one of them, but the aircraft register, film, a number of areas have been very beneficial for the island. Now economic hard times have hit all countries. Every country is looking for all the income and all the economic activity.
Was that just flying a kite, or do you think there was some truth in that he has looked at trying to bring it onshore again?
There's a couple of elements in that, I think. I certainly think they're looking at tightening up the level of regulation of e-gaming business trading into the UK. They're reviewing the terms of the whitelist, which the Isle of Man is on, which reflects the level of regulation that we have. There is a big concern in the UK, in particular with sports betting, with horse betting, that many of those offices have gone offshore, particularly to Gibraltar, with the loss of several hundred jobs in the UK. So I think there's a concern to get that business back again. But the e-gaming business is very, very important for the island. It's shown great dynamic growth over the last 8-9 years. It's now worth 8% of our GDP. There's over 700 people working in it, and it provides something like £16 million a year tax revenue for government. So it is a very important player on the island. We will do all we can to defend and protect it and to expand it further.
What do you do to protect that?
Well, we are working with the industry at the moment to assist them to engage in new markets which are opening up in the European Union. There isn't a single point of entry into the European Union for e-gaming. It's on a country-by-country basis, and we are working with the local industry to try and help them to gain access to those markets.
Because I put it to you, they're pretty fickle. I mean, it's just a box, isn't it? And they can relocate in an instant almost, couldn't they?
That could be said about many business, but most of our senior companies have been here now for very nearly 10 years. They've shown great loyalty. They are growing. They're bringing new workers here as well as creating new jobs locally. They're investing in the island quite heavily. So I think with every year that passes, it's becoming a more mature and deeper rooted industry, and one which will have long-term benefits for the island.
Because all your rebalancing, everything is sort of on a wire here, isn't it? I mean, any one thing doesn't quite work out, and you're not going to hit your targets, are you?
No, it has to be accepted. This is a very, very challenging period for government, and there are no easy answers either to keep the economy growing, to diversify, or to balance the books. Sometimes we are going to fail. We won't be able to achieve what we aim to do. But as long as the overall strategy is still moving forward, it's still on target, then we can be pleased with the progress we're making. Okay,
well, finally, what does Mr. Bell do at Christmas? Does he put up his Santa hat and wait for some presents, or do you keep working, or what?
Sleep.
And then, I mean, you keep working through it?
Yes, I will be working right up to Christmas Eve, and I hope there will be very few problems between Christmas and New Year, but we'll have to see. But politicians are always on call during that period. You can't always anticipate what those issues might be. They often hit us unexpectedly. So we're all on standby in case anything happens.
And this time next year, where will we be?
I suspect we will still be in very difficult times. We will still be struggling to balance the budgets. I very much hope, though, that we will be able to stick to the strategy which will be outlined by Treasury in the budget, which will indicate that we are still very much on target. We are 1 year closer to the final rebalancing. I'm also believe that we will be able to maintain growth in the economy. There are some signs round about that the world economy may be stabilising a bit. That gives us new opportunities. But it is going to be a huge workload for government over the next years to diversify, to drive new economic activity, to maintain public services at an acceptable level, and to continue to move towards rebalancing. It'll be a difficult year. It'll take a lot of forbearance, I think, amongst the public. I hope they understand where we're coming from and what we're trying to achieve.
Very quickly, maybe even a yes or no for these. Any reshuffle?
Reshuffle?
Is that a yes or no? Or don't know?
That will have to be seen.
Okay, and you staying with the job?
I will be staying with the job as long as my colleagues want me to.